Hello, everybody. Steven Ruderman here with your very late Insomniac Lunatic French Giants postgame show. Hey, it's 11:14 at night. That's why we call it the Insomniac Lunatic Fringe. In case you haven't noticed, the Giants have managed to win a few here and there and are threatening to make a run at the playoffs. The Giants, with a wild and crazy 10-8 win over the Rockies tonight in Denver, they sweep the Rockies. They've won 4 straight. They've won 10 of their last 11. They're now 2 games over 500 at 71-69. And guess what, folks? They are just 4 games back of the New York Mets for the third wild card spot in the National League. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a pennant race. Meaningful September baseball for the Giants. We last had that in 2023. Remember on Wednesday, September the 13th of that year, after the Giants took 2 of 3 from the Guardians on a walk-off sacrifice fly. I was there, sitting next to my friend Bruce McGowan. The Giants were just a half game back of the Diamondbacks for the third wild card spot, but the Giants completely collapsed in the final 2.5 weeks, losing 3 of 4 in Denver, getting swept in 2 by the Diamondbacks, losing 3 of 4 to the Dodgers, and that was pretty much it. So here we are. 22 games left here in the 2025 season. The Giants are 71-69, 4 back of the Mets in a much stronger National League. Kyle says, what the hell is this team? Now I think they're going to be over 500. I hope so. And look, I'm not going to get too excited yet. The Giants are chasing some good teams in the Mets and the Padres, both of whom have better teams on paper than the Giants. But guess what? The Giants have the easiest schedule. They have the second easiest schedule in all of baseball, the remainder of the way. The Mets have the 4th hardest schedule. The Mets were 20 games over 500 in June, and now they are only 10 games over 500. They could collapse. The Padres just lost Sander Bogaerts for the rest of the regular season. They just lost Jason Adam, one of their dominant fireball late inning guys, for the season. Not to mention, of the 3 teams, something tells me the Giants may want this thing the most. The Giants are definitely the most united and have the best clubhouse chemistry of the 3 teams. And a lot of times, September baseball fights for the playoffs, and even October baseball and the postseason, they all boil down to who wants it the most. And to me, it seems like the Giants want this thing pretty badly. We are finally seeing the team that we saw in the first 38 games of the season come back to life. We're seeing a little bit of everything from this team: power, contact hitting, small ball, pitching, and defense. I wish we could see a little more in the stolen base department, but maybe that will come. But these guys are back on track. They are playing their best baseball since the 24-14 start. Most importantly, they are a united team, and they're clicking on all cylinders. And this is a team that, for the first time since the 24-14 start, comes to the park every day expecting to win. Chapman is back from the IL. He's swinging the bat well. Damas is swinging the bat well. Devers is swinging the bat well. And, from part of me was not happy with what Chapman did last night with Kyle Freeland, because there really was no reason for him to go in and shove him. That really did exacerbate the situation. But what I did like about it is it showed how much these guys care about each other. What we saw last night was Chapman and Adames sticking up for their teammate. And you do love to see that part of it. Kyle saying this is giving 2024 Giants vibes. They sold the deadline and now making a late season push. Absolutely. The Giants were 7 games under 500 just 12 days ago. The Tigers were 8 games under 500 at 55-63 after a loss to the Giants on August 10th of last year. They had just sold at the deadline a week and a half prior, and then they went on a run and went to the playoffs. Also, the Mets were 11 games under 500 in June of last year and then ended up getting hot and going to the playoffs. So it is a little bit ironic that now the Mets are the team that could be chased down by a team that was well under 500 and could be beat out by that team. That's some sweet, delicious irony right there. So Matt Chapman was the lone man to get a suspension after what happened last night. He got a 1-game suspension. He appealed that, so he was in the lineup today. And it was a pretty damn good thing that he was in the lineup. 2 home runs, knocked in 4 of the Giants' 10 runs. I'll say this, if he didn't appeal his suspension, it's possible the Giants would have lost tonight. And it was a very wild back and forth game. So Robbie Ray was on the mound for the Giants, German Marquez on the mound for the Rockies. Giants go down 1-2-3 in the first. Tyler Freeman was hit to start the bottom of the first, but he was caught stealing, and he was called out after an overturned replay. I didn't watch the whole game. I was having dinner at my aunt and uncle's house, so I was watching part of the game on my phone there, and then the rest of the game on my laptop, where I'm at right now. Top of the second inning, Matt Chapman. It's a home run to center field, puts the Giants on the board. Top of the third, the Giants are at it again with runners at first and third, and the bases loaded. No. That's okay. I'm getting this wrong. Patrick Bailey got a base. Luis Matos led off the third with the base hit. Again, this was the part of the game I missed, so I apologize for that. Matos leads off the top of the third with a base hit. Patrick Bailey singles him over to second. He tries to take third. He's thrown out at third. Ramos gets Bailey over to third on a single. So with runners at first and third and 1 out, Rafael Devers hit a base hit to left field. That knocked in Bailey to make it 2-0. And then Willy Adames had a sac fly to center. That made it 3-0. Wilmer Flores, after a Matt Chapman walk, would then hit a ground ball up the middle for a base hit to center field. Devers would score, and the Giants had a 4-0 lead. Ray was pretty good. He threw 1-2-3 bottom of the second and a 1-2-3 bottom of the third. Again, this is the part of the game that I missed. Giants went down 1-2-3 in the top of the fourth. The Rockies put together a bit of a rally in the bottom of the fourth. Ezequiel Tovar and Hunter Goodman both singled with 1 out. Robbie Ray struck out Jordan Beck for the second out, but with runners at first and third and 2 outs, Brennan Doyle hit a base hit to left that put the Rockies on the board. Bottom of the fifth, well, it got a little ugly. Kyle Karros, Eric Karros' kid. Yes, the Eric Karros, whom Giants fans remember so fondly from his days with the Dodgers, and whom Giants fans are tortured by whenever he does a game on Fox. Oh, we kid Eric Karros. He hits a double to left. Ryan Ritter grounds out and gets him over to third, but Tyler Freeman hits a base hit to center. That knocks in Karros to make it 4-2. Tovar walks. And then Hunter Goodman got caught up in a long at-bat against Ray. Now, I did watch this part. On the 8th pitch, he lines a base hit to left. This was a weird play. Runners coming home. Ramos makes a boneheaded throw. It sails away from everyone. There is a collision between Patrick Bailey and Tyler Freeman. Freeman is able to touch the plate afterwards. Bob Melvin asks for a replay review while both Freeman and Patrick Bailey are still on the ground. Thankfully, both would be fine and would stay in the game. And I'm thinking, what's he replaying? Did he not touch home plate after the collision? And if he didn't, then that would be obstruction. But they were wondering if Freeman deviated from his base path. So that call was upheld. Jordan Beck's now at the plate. He hits a base hit, and the Rockies, they put up a 4 spot to take a 5-4 lead. In between innings, Bob Melvin was tossed by Dan Bellino, the plate umpire. Just came out and got tossed for arguing balls and strikes. And then the Giants scored 5 runs in the top of the 6th, and I can't help but think that Melvin got tossed just to fire up his team. The Giants got to work right away. Patrick Bailey knocked in Casey Schmidt with a base hit to tie the game. Elliot Ramos knocked in Luis Matos with a base hit to give the Giants the lead. And then with 2 outs, Matt Chapman hit his second home run of the night, a 3-run shot to left center. That made it 9-5. Top of the 7th inning, Drew Gilbert hits a line drive home run to right field. That makes it 10-5. You also got to give a lot of credit to the Giants bullpen tonight. Joel Piguero came in and got the final out of the bottom of the 5th, then proceeded to pitch a 1-2-3 bottom of the 6th. JT Brubaker, whom the Giants just called up a couple days ago, he came over from the Yankees as part of the Camilo Duvall trade. He pitches a 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the 7th, escapes a 1-out double in the bottom of the 8th, and Bob Melvin, from wherever he was managing the game at, either the runway or his office, decided to have him go out and pitch the 9th, and he would have him pitch the final 3 innings. However, this is Coors Field, and the Rockies may be a pretty bad team coming in at 39-100, but I got news for you. It doesn't matter how bad they are always dangerous at Coors Field, and the Giants have had too many tragic moments in that ballpark for us to just relax and assume the game is over. Because as we found out in the bottom of the 9th, this game was far from over. Now, he got Braxton Fulford, Brubaker did, he got Braxton Fulford to ground out to short, but then Karros hit a base hit to right. And he was a little late on what was a 94-mile-an-hour sinker. He hits it just over the leaping Rafael Devers at first base. It goes into right field for a base hit. Mickey Moniak pinch hits for Ryan Ritter. He walks. Tyler Freeman then singles to left. The bases are loaded. So Bob Melvin, either from the runway or from his office, understanding as someone who has managed in the National League West for a long time how scary of a place Coors Field can be, wasted no time bringing in his closer. Ryan Walker came in. Tovar got Karros in on a sacrifice fly to center. That made it 10-6. Hunter Goodman at the plate. He got one of the big hits to make it He got the big hit to make it a 4-3 game in the bottom of the 5th. He hits a double into the gap in left center field, scoring a pair. Guess what? It's 10-8, and the tying run was coming to the plate in Jordan Beck. But Walker was able to strike him out, and the Giants held on to win 10-8. Kyle says next year when Wilmer is gone, Ramos to DH, and then Gilbert, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Matos in the outfield. And see, this is what I'm a little worried about, is that Buster Posey and company are going to think, oh, we got the team we want. We don't need to make any additions in the offseason, don't need to make any changes. That cannot be our outfield. Gilbert, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Matos cannot be our outfielder. Matos is a long way away from truly proving himself. Now, I mean, if he can have a really strong September, help him get into the playoffs and have some big hits in October, then we'll talk. Drew Gilbert, as I've said before, is a lot like Nate Shearholtz. Right now, I view Drew Gilbert as a 4th outfielder. The Giants still need to add a guy in free agency in the offseason to play right field. Same with second base. Casey Schmidt, I mean, he's a major league guy, but I don't consider him an everyday second baseman. Changes still need to be made in the offseason. Guys still need to be added to fill holes in right field and at second base. And the last thing we can do is just be like, okay, we got the team we want, because I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news here or to be negative while the Giants are playing well, but we can't just ignore what happened from May 9th to August 22nd and just write it off as a fluke. At the end of the day, this has been the 4th straight season of mediocre Giants baseball. The season, I would actually say, has been year 7 of the Farhan Zaidi era. Other than 2021, 2019, 2020, 2022, 23, 24, and 25 have all gone very similarly, where they would be the best team in baseball for a certain amount of time. Things clicking on all cylinders, guys showing up to the park every day expecting to win, but then in other parts of the season playing terrible baseball. Now in 2019 and 2020, they started off by playing terrible baseball and then got hot. In 2019, the Giants went on a ridiculous run in July to go from 12 games under 500 to 2 games over 500. They won something like 21 out of 23 games or something. It was pretty incredible what the Giants did. Though I don't know, actually, they had to go because they went from 12 under to 2 over. That would require them going 14 over 500 in a stretch. 21 and 3 is 18 games over 500. My memory of Giants baseball is more like the 2000s, early 2010s. 2020, they got off to an 8-16 start in that COVID short 60-game sprint season. Tommy La Stella hit the walk-off home run on Monday, August the 17th, and then the Giants went on a run, got to 2 games over 500, but ended up going 29-31 and missing the playoffs. 2022, 23, and here in 25, they got off to great starts, went cold, went from double digits over 500 to under 500. So all 7 of these seasons have been very similar, well, other than 2021. And I do consider this year 7 of the Farhan era. Changes absolutely need to be made. New players need to be brought in. And one of the areas where there needs to be changes is the coaching staff. Again, you can't write off what happened from May 9th to August 22nd. You can't ignore it or write it off as a fluke. They struggled. They were legitimately a bad team during that stretch. And they could have been coached better. I have all the admiration and respect in the world for Pat Burrell, an incredible ball player. Won 2 rings as a result. Very much a leader in the clubhouse. But his talent, his post-playing talents lie in scouting, not coaching. Now, let's get to the positive of the Giants being in the pennant race, because we have ourselves a pennant race. The Giants are 4 back with 22 games to go. The Giants will go to St. Louis for 3 over the weekend. The Mets to Cincinnati for 3 over the weekend. The Reds just lost 2-3 to the Blue Jays. The Mets are going to have to face the Reds' ace on Friday night in Andrew Abbott. The Cardinals aren't exactly the best team, but they're not the worst team either. They're in a similar position with the Giants, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks, which is they're hanging in there. They're still playing for something, and while the fan base of the Cardinals might think it's over, like the Giants a week ago, I said on my podcast with my boss at Sports Radio Service, Lee Leonard, prior to the game last Saturday, the Giants were 6 games back going into that game. They were under 500. I said, well, they're 6 games back, and while really no one thinks they can go to the playoffs at this point, every single one of these guys in this clubhouse thinks they can, and they're still fighting hard for this season. And teams like the Cardinals, the Reds, and even the Diamondbacks, who just took 2 or 3 from the Rangers, are no different. Now, don't forget, this stretch started with the Giants taking 2 of 3 from the best team in baseball in the Brewers at American Family Field. Don't forget that. They then swept the Cubs, another team well on their way to the playoffs. As we get a look at the standings, and right behind the Giants, you got the Reds, who are 5 back at 70-70, and the Diamondbacks and Cardinals, who are 5.5 back at 70-71. And the Cardinals are going to play tough against the Giants this week, and it's not going to be a walk in the park like this series in Denver was. The Giants also have 6 games coming up against the Diamondbacks. Giants host the Diamondbacks for 3 next week at Oracle, Monday through Wednesday. I'll be there Wednesday. And then they'll be in Arizona the following week, Monday the 15th through Wednesday the 17th. I'm actually seriously thinking of going down for that series. That will be fun. I went to Chase Field for the first time ever 2 years ago when the Giants played that 2-game series the second and final week of the season. And I used to think that ballpark, Kyle, you can attest to this too because you've been to Chase Field. I used to think that ballpark was just a sterile, industrialized airport hangar. But actually going there, seeing a game in person, it was a pretty cool ballpark, even with the roof closed. And I'm glad the Diamondbacks are renovating the place. I'm glad they're keeping that stadium. That is the home of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So this is going to be a fun and wild September. The Giants, again, they have the second easiest schedule in all of baseball for the final 3.5 weeks. This season has gone by really quickly. We only have 22 games. We only have 3.5 weeks left to go in the regular season. And this is going to be a fun month of pennant race baseball. The Giants absolutely can go to the playoffs. It's also going to be a bit of a challenge as there's 7 games against the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers, are probably going to the playoffs, but this isn't exactly a Dodgers kind of year. They're 78 and 61. They may not even win 90 games. Now, the Giants are 2-4 against the Dodgers, but the 2 wins that they got against them, June 13th at Dodger Stadium and then July 11th at Oracle Park, were both very hard-fought wins. Giants played them tough. The Giants, no reason the Giants can't go 5-2 against the Dodgers, who, by the way, they're 7.5 games back of, and no, the Giants are not going to win the National League West. Let's not get that crazy. But if the Giants could play the Dodgers tough, they have a real shot at going to the playoffs. And again, the Padres and the Mets definitely have better teams on paper, but the Giants have the best clubhouse. They most likely want this thing the most. And the Mets and the Padres, the Mets have a tough schedule, the 4th hardest in all of baseball. The Padres, again, they've lost Bogarts for their regular season. They lost Jason Adam, one of their fireballers in the back end of their bullpen for the season. Either one of those teams can have a collapse. And if the Giants play well enough, they can get in. The one weakness the Giants have right now is their bullpen. Bob Melvin, who is not exactly great at managing a bullpen, he's going to have to find some creative ways to navigate through that. Tonight, we saw that going to Joel Piguero in the 5th and 6th, going to JT Brubaker in the 7th, 8th, and the beginning of the 9th. Ryan Walker, who was really having a lost season, he's finally come around. We're seeing the Ryan Walker that we saw who earned the closer's job at the end of last season. And he really needs to step it up if the Giants are going to make a run at this thing. So that's going to be the biggie here, is if Bob Melvin can navigate the bullpen issues. The problem with the Giants selling off Tyler Rogers and Camille Duvall is that one of the best bullpens in baseball has been significantly weakened. But Ryan Walker is pitching well right now. He can be a very effective closer down the stretch. And, Joel Piguero, this kid throws gas. Sam Lubman at 95.7 said on his final edition of the Orange and Black weekend wrap of the season on Saturday that Piguero he would like to see Piguero be in the running for closer next season. And I want to thank Sam personally, one of my best friends. He actually had me on as a guest on the Orange and Black weekend wrap back on Saturday, August the 9th. We talked about Bryce Eldridge and why the Giants should absolutely not call him up. And with the fact that I was saying that the Giants should wait till the final week of the season to call him up after the AAA season ends. Now that the Giants are in contention, they absolutely should not bring him up under any circumstances. You don't want to throw this kid right into a pennant race, the final week of the season. Have this guy, hey Bryce, get up here. We want you to help this. We want you to help us get to the playoffs here in the final week of the season. No pressure, kid. You don't do that. And Buster has actually hinted that we will not see Eldridge up until next season. That is the right move. Kyle said the Dodgers have a lot of holes. Now, the thing I worry about with the Dodgers, because we as Giants fans, we want a good National League team to be able to step up in October and keep the Dodgers from going back to the World Series. But what I worry about with the Dodgers, they stopped relying solely on home runs last year, and I think the analytics people upstairs started giving Dave Roberts a little more freedom to manage his own games. I think those things, and the fact that they were getting contributions 1 through 26, I think those things really contributed to the Dodgers winning the World Series last year. The Dodgers do not have as strong a team as they did last year, but like the 2014 Giants, they will go into the postseason having been there before. And you very well might see them get hot and go back to the World Series and even repeat. Now, if the Giants go to the playoffs as the third wild card, they're probably going to face the Dodgers for a best 2 out of 3 at Dodger Stadium. And I do think if they get into October baseball and they're up against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, I think the Giants could be the team to knock off the Dodgers. I really do. Kyle, as you mentioned, they have a lot of holes. The Giants will come into the postseason as that team getting hot at the right time. Because let's be honest, the Giants are getting hot at the right time. And teams like that can go deep into the postseason. They can go to the World Series. They can even win the World Series. Now, do I think the Giants are going to go to or win the World Series? I really, really doubt that. But it's baseball. You never know. But I do think the thing I think the Giants absolutely can do if they get to the playoffs is knock off the Dodgers in the wild card series. So I want to address an incident last night. I was going to do it on my show last night, and then I kind of ran out of time. So Framber Valdez, he's been around a long time. Framber Valdez, he's left-hander for the Astros. He's been around a long time. He's been up since 2018. He's pitched in 3 World Series, got a ring in 2022, was a very big part of that. Last night, he was pitching against the Yankees. I think they were down 2-0 in the 5th inning. And he and his young catcher, a third-year guy, Cesar Salazar, were having some miscommunication. He just felt like, okay, I want to throw my own pitch. He ends up giving up a grand slam. So it was either later that inning or in the top of the 6th, he was having more miscommunication with Salazar, and he ends up saying, okay, screw this, I'm just going to quick pitch the guy and knock him in the wrist. And that's what he did. I mean, we've seen pitchers deliberately throw at batters on the other team. We saw the Tigers deliberately throw at umpire Quinn Wolcott's mask in 2017. This is a first, a guy deliberately trying to hit his own teammate with a pitch. And no, Roger Clemens hitting his son with a pitch in a father-son game doesn't count. But under no circumstances can something like that ever happen. And honestly, this guy should be suspended the rest of the season. He had several teammates confront him at his locker after the game last night. That was an absolutely dastardly act. You never do something like that to your teammate. Guys may have problems with their teammates, but at the end of the day, your teammates are your brothers in arms. You may love your teammates, you may hate your teammates, but you guys have one common goal at the end of the day, and that is to win the World Series. And under no circumstances should you ever be deliberately trying to injure your own teammate or show up your own teammate in any way, shape, or form. If the Astros do not suspend this guy for the rest of the season, regular and postseason, because the Astros are most likely going to the playoffs again, then that organization has major problems. That kind of behavior cannot go unpunished. Now, his agent, Valdez's agent, called it, quote, misguided to think that Framber Valdez intentionally hit Salazar. Wow. The fact that he already did this was bad enough, and now his agent's doubling down on his behalf. Wow. I mean, I really cannot stand Framber Valdez. And I believe he might be a free agent this winter. Jeff Fry said that analytics people on other teams will view him as an asset and will tell their presidents of baseball ops to sign the guy. The Giants better not sign this guy in the offseason. And yes, he is indeed a free agent at the end of the year. The Giants better not sign this guy. You don't want a guy like this in your clubhouse. And good for his teammates to call him out on it and confront him in his locker. But it does sound like the Astros are predictably handling this horribly. The article from MLB.com, Astros look to move past Framber's cross-up controversy. Astros manager Joe Espada, hoping to put the controversy to bed surrounding a pitch thrown by Framber Valdez in Tuesday's game that struck catcher Cesar Salazar in the chest, addressed the situation at the beginning of his remarks to the media Wednesday afternoon at Daikin Park. In the fifth inning of the Yankees' 7-1 win Tuesday, outfielder Trent Grisham hit a grand slam off Valdez, who threw the pitch despite Salazar motioning for him to step off the rubber. 2 pitches later, a clearly frustrated Valdez struck Salazar in the chest protector with a sinker, a move which both pitcher and catcher later said wasn't intentional. And now Salazar is denying this. I mean, I get it. You don't want to have a public feud in the media. But I've watched that video. I can't show it here because all that's, all the videos, you got to get written consent from Major League Baseball, and I do not have that yet. That would be kind of cool if I can get it at some point in the not too distant future. But it was pretty obvious that it was intentional. And the Astros should be backing their catcher and suspending Valdez for the rest of the season, especially as a team that is most likely going to the playoffs. You cannot have this kind of controversy as you fight for a playoff spot and as you prepare to go to the playoffs. Wow. So I wanted to address that. Another thing I actually wanted to address that I meant to last night, but I ran out of time. Phil Cuzzi. He became, last Friday night on his 70th birthday, the first man to ever umpire a major league game at the age of 70, worked the plate at Dodger Stadium last Friday night. And I got to tell you something about Italians. They age well. The guy doesn't look a day older than 50, and I mean that in 100% sincerity. And for the 70-year-old, when Devers and Freeland were getting into it last night, to rush in there and hold Freeland back, man, I mean, that is one of the most youthful acts I've ever seen from somebody in their 70s. Maybe the most youthful act I have ever seen from someone in their 70s. That was really cool. What I love about Phil Cuzzi, and he's had his moments. Remember, he cost us a game July 18th, 2010, when he called Travis Ishikawa out on a play at the plate when he was clearly safe. It would have been the walk-off. It would have been a walk-off. The Mets ended up winning in extra innings. But what I love about Phil Cuzzi is he's an old-school baseball guy. And he's different. He's weird. He's quirky. I mean, I haven't had any personal interactions with the guy. I haven't talked to anyone who has. But you can tell. And he has a very interesting story of how he got his job. He went to umpire school, I think, in either the late 70s or the early 80s. Got the call up to the National League in 1991, worked as an up and down guy in 91, 92, and 93. He was let go after 93. Which was incredibly devastating to him. as it is to anyone who gets cut as a minor league umpire, especially those who reach AAA or even the major leagues as an up and down guy. So Cuzzy ended up getting a job as a bartender at a hotel somewhere in his home state of New Jersey. So one night in 1996, his third year off the field, Leonard Coleman, the president of the National League, happened to be staying at the hotel he was working at that night. So after Cuzzy's shift ended, he awkwardly sat outside Coleman's room, I think for at least an hour, possibly in the middle of the night while Coleman was asleep. And then when Coleman came out, Cuzzy said, "Hey, I'm Phil Cuzzy. I used to umpire in the National League." And he was able to talk Coleman into giving him a second chance. And that is what, just awkwardly waiting outside a guy's hotel room while he sleeps. That is absolutely something I would do and then regret later. But Phil was committed. And so Coleman agreed to let him back in, but he had to work his way back up. He worked single A in 1997, double A in 1998, and triple A in 1999. Cuzzy was then hired full time during the Richie Phillips debacle. We're not going to get into that. But Cuzzy was a full-time Major League umpire, and he has had a very memorable career. This has been his 26th full season as a Major League umpire. He worked a long time under Jerry Crawford, and then under Tom Hallion, and now under Dan Bellino, who's over 20 years younger than him. But that may be my favorite crew: Dan Bellino, Phil Cuzzy, and Tony Randazzo. Two old school guys on the crew with a young umpire who's old school himself, and Dan Bellino. And it's, he got to work the World Series in 2017, worked Game 1 at Dodger Stadium behind the plate. He's worked, I think, 3 LCSs, 2005, 2014, and 2019. It's unfortunate. I wish he could have been made a crew chief, but nevertheless, the guy has had an incredibly memorable career, and it's a lesson to myself and so many others, which is don't give up on your dreams. This guy was committed to be a Major League umpire, and he waited awkwardly outside of Lynn Coleman's hotel room for over an hour, most likely while the guy slept. And he ended up becoming a Major League umpire as a result. And he got rewarded for that with a very memorable career, great friendships with guys like Tom Hallion and Dan Bellino and Jerry Crawford, whom he worked under for a very long time. And, I think it is so cool that he worked in his 70s. And hopefully they don't bring in ABS next year, because I'd love to see Cuzzy go a few more years. He's definitely got it. He could go to 75. Maybe, okay, I'm pushing it if I'm saying 80, but you never know. Italians age well. Cuzzy's in incredible shape. I mean, you could tell this guy works out. The guy is shredded. And I definitely think he has another 3 to 5 years in him easily. And I hope ABS doesn't come, because I'd love to see him stick it around. I'd love to see him stick around and go a few more years. All right. This has been your Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show for Sports Radio Service. For Kyle Foster, who contributed in the comments tonight. For my boss, Lee Leonard, I'm Stephen Ruderman. I hope you enjoyed my meanderings tonight. Have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.